What's good, everybody? With the UFC now being under Paramount Plus and no longer needing to rely on them bitch-ass American pay-per-views, the whole world has low-key opened up for some banger UFC events, right? If you're an American back in the day, like you gotta buy the pay-per-view, you got no other option, but now, $7.99, bro. You got that shit recorded, you got that shit in multiple languages. It doesn't matter if this shit is in Spain or Japan or China or whatever. You watch it in the morning, man. Like, most of the events are gonna be in the US anyways. Whatever. We're gonna be building UFC Spain. Given that we have a champ and a star in Ilia Topuria who represents Spain, we can finally justify making a card there and not having a bunch of bozos on there. That being said, let's get right into it. Date and location: Santiago Bernabeu, December 2026. For those of you guys that don't watch football, Santiago Bernabeu is the stadium of Madrid's football team. Madrid, they're one of the best teams in the world. Unfortunately, I'm a Barca fan myself, but they do have a great stadium. It's closed. You can close the roof. You don't gotta worry about the rain. It's huge. There's a bunch of space, both near where the cage would be and in the stands. As you guys can see by the second picture here, they have made events in the past that aren't football related. They're full capable of closing the stadium for some bitch ass stadium shows. So I see no issue in making a night of the UFC in this stadium. Having it December 2026 is good, mostly because at that point Ilya will be freed up. Given this year he has coming up, he has a fight with Gaethje coming up, and if he fights twice a year, which I hope he does this year, he could very well fight in December, the earliest. So that's why we're making this fight December 2026. This could easily go into January next year, but let's try to keep it in December in 2026. Let's start with some prelims, right? So my idea with the prelims, let's bring in some guys from the regional scene here in Spain. They're not fighting, most of them in Spain, but the best way of both introducing the MMA as a sport to the Spanish audience is to have some guys that they can get behind. So right now in the UFC, there's only 3 signed Spanish UFC fighters. So we're going to improve that a little bit. We're going to start off with Pepe Torres versus Marshall. All right, Francis Marshall, the American. So I hope you guys like my Photoshop work on Pepe Torres over here. I had to Photoshop him off Google Images. But so Pepe Torres, he's 10-1 as a pro. He's 30 years old, and he's currently fighting on the Spanish WAR, the War promotion, right? So he's pretty good. I mean, he's UFC, like the record itself and the competition he's fighting is a little bit questionable. But he is at a point, and he's old enough, like he's not washed, he's not 35, 36. He's at a point where he can fight on the prelims on some UFC event. I think give him a shot. If you want, you can make this a Contender Series fight. You can try to get him in the Contender Series before. This goes for this fighter and the next one I'll talk about. But I think it's justified if we get them on the prelims of this event. I'd make him fight this guy, the American Francis Marshall, just because he's on a bit of a skid in this division. And it would be a good way to check how good is Pepe Torres actually. If he beats Marshall, then we know he's UFC level, and Marshall probably gets cut. My fault. And if he doesn't, then maybe give him one more fight and then cut him from the promotion. But Pepe Torres versus Francis Marshall, opening up the prelims. We're only gonna do a couple prelims fights because I think it's not. Even in the London cards or the France cards, you don't have a French guy in every fight. So I'm only going to be focusing on the Spanish fighters, which is the stuff that matters. Next, speaking of Spanish fighters, we have Salah Eddie Hamli, who is not Spanish, as you guys could tell by the name. He's Moroccan. So in this card, I'm thinking we get people who, like, if you're a Moroccan fighter, you're probably fighting either, from a gym somewhere random in the world, like in the US, or in Spain, which is the case for Salah. He's undefeated. He's 11-0. He's 27 years old. This guy has like perfect prospect written all over him. The fact that he's fighting he represents Morocco and he's fighting in Spain, that means he's like a big draw for the Spanish audience, the Moroccan immigrant audience in Spain, and also Moroccans. They can come over to watch Salah fight, in the Bernabeu. Moroccans are very in tune with football anyway, so coming into Spain, they'll come watch Madrid. They can watch Salah fight on the weekend when he does. And yeah, this guy's currently the PFL lightweight champ, and he has a pretty nasty submission game. So 11-0, I think 4 of these fights have been in the PFL. So this guy has some experience in the upper echelon. You know, of course the UFC separates itself from everything else, but right below the UFC we got Bellator, we got ONE, and we got the PFL. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that other than the UFC. So bring him in. I put him against Ismael Bonfim. He's on a bit of a skid. And again, the same thing with Pepe Torres. It's a way to check how good Salah really is. If you're the champ over at the PFL, you shouldn't have any issues with Ismael Bonfim. So make this as maybe the second, like right before the main prelim fight, which we're going to talk about. Make this right heading the prelims. I don't think this should be anywhere near the main card, you know. And if you want, honestly, I wouldn't be mad, justified. Like, it would be kind of justified putting these guys on the early prelims, but I'm only doing prelims and main card. Let's see how good Salah really is. Bring him in the UFC. If you want, again, this card is in December, so we can make a card before this. Like, you can include these guys in some sort of, you know, like Contender Series or whatever the equivalent of the Road to UFC is. That you guys can make one of these fights to get them in the UFC, get the contract, and then make this fight. Echer Sosa versus Damon Blackshear. He's 30 years old, Echer Sosa is. 14-1 record. He's currently in the bantamweight division. He's fighting out of Spain. And he's already won in the Contender Series, so this guy already has a UFC contract, so he's already ready to fight. He has a bout scheduled, I think, the end of February against Luan Lacerda. Don't know who he is. He has a 14-1 record as well. Win or loss, his next fight should be in the UFC. And February to December, you know, if this guy doesn't take like some crazy career-altering amount of damage, he should be ready in December. Damon Blackshear, again, he's on a bit of a skid, as you guys know. Like, we're testing these guys coming in from another division, from another weight class, from another organization. So putting him up against a guy who's a bit on a bit of a tumble, I think that's the way to do it. So this guy, he is pretty good. He's on the Tapology rankings, like one of the best Spanish fighters outside of you know, the big 3 or the big 4, whatever you guys want to call it. Outside the UFC, technically he's in the UFC now, but outside the UFC, he is one of the better Spanish fighters. So let's get this guy headlining the prelims. He has a pretty big name over here in the underground MMA scene in Spain. And yeah, let's get it going. So going on to the main card. Again, we're only going to make I'm only going to schedule a couple of fights. We're going to do 4 fights for the main card. In reality, it's probably going to be 5 or 6. But I'm going to do, again, like I said, Spanish and surrounding fighters. So we're going to include Moroccans, as you're going to see in a second. Opening up the main card, we're going to have Zalal versus Allen. So Zalal right now, he's ranked number 8, I believe. He's right below Allen at number 7. And Zalal, he's not as big of a name where you can just justify sending him up in the featherweight division. The featherweight's pretty stacked right now. You know, we got the top. We got Jean Silva, Laron Murphy, Movsar Evloev, Diego Lopez, Volk at the champ. You know, you can't justify really, like, I don't think Zalal against any of those top guys is a fight that UFC is interested in making, unless maybe the loser of Evloev versus Murphy, one of those guys. But I'd make Zalal versus Allen, because not only is Zalal a Moroccan fighter, although he's fighting out of the US, he's a Moroccan fighter, so he has that draw. Allen, being a British fighter, can also bring the British casuals. You know, we can bring some British guys over from the UK. UK guys love to come and party and chill in Spain, especially take their vacation time off here. So if like you're a British UFC fan, you already like going to Spain regardless. There's a fucking Allen fight. Fuck it, like why not, right? That's my idea of making these fights. Get some British guys, get some Moroccan guys, get some Spanish people from the area. Next, Joel Alvarez versus MVP. So when you think of Spanish UFC fighters, you think Ilia Topuria, Joel Alvarez, Alexandre Topuria, and that's about it, right? So he's like when people here in Spain talk about fighters in the UFC from here, we talk about Joel Alvarez. Like that's the second guy to come up in the conversation. Make him against MVP. So Joel Alvarez, he's not ranked right now. He just beat Vicente Luque in a very tragic performance where Vicente looks super washed. And MVP is 15th ranked in the welterweight division, right? Joel just moved up into the welterweight division. You know, he was having issues cutting weight at lightweight. He got cooked by Arman, you know, having some problems down there. I think he'll do well in this weight class. He is a good size for the weight class. Make him against MVP. This is like a good name fight. Like Joel versus a good style. MVP is a big name. Again, UK fighter versus Spanish fighter. You have the Spanish guys coming in to support Alvarez. You got the UK casuals coming in to support MVP. this is a good matchup to make, and it's gonna be fireworks. I am excited to see it. So let's make this for the main card. You could probably put this like maybe right below the co-main event, maybe the feature fight. It's a bit dodgy, but having MVP kind of makes it warranted for the feature fight, in my opinion. Next, Lerone Murphy versus Yair. So, if you guys watched my predicting the events for the UFC video, you saw that I believe Lerone Murphy is going to lose to Bobsar Evloev, and I think it's not even going to be close. And that Murphy is not going to end up fighting Volk. So, given that he's not going to fight Volk, and Yair is likely going to fight Lopez at some point this year, a good timing fight would be Lerone Murphy versus Yair Rodriguez in December, again in Spain. And make this fight, again, for the British casuals. We got Yair, who speaks Spanish, so the press conference would be interesting with that. There could be some beef there. But I think this is just a fight to fill a little bit, fill the card up, stack it a little bit. Make this the co-main because of the name value and because of the stakes, given the rankings. But yeah, I think these guys around this time of the year, they're going to be ready to fight each other. And last, what do you guys think is going to be the main event? Fucking Topuria versus Islam, baby. Woo! Low-key, like the most unrealistic part of this card is this main event, given that this would have to be up at welterweight, and so much has to go well. Like, Topuria has to beat Gaethje. I think he will. Islam has to beat Morales or Ian Gary or whoever he's going to be fighting next, which I also think he will. But then the UFC just has to justify this somehow. Has to be like, all right, Topuria, yeah, you can go up. Challenge for triple champ status. Like, there's no one that's done this before as challenge for a belt in a third weight class. It's going to be crazy. If he does, another difficulty factor is like, this is kind of the biggest fight in UFC history. Do you think they're going to want to do this in Spain? Probably not, right? Like, if we're talking about biggest fights of all time, you could sell out Madison Square Garden with this. Whatever arena, like, what's your biggest and most profitable arena if you sell out? Is it Las Vegas? Is it Madison Square Garden? Fucking Qatar? I don't know. Wherever it is, you put that fight, it sells out. It's literally, skill for skill, the best fight of all time, even if Topuria is going up 2 weight classes from his original class at featherweight. But still, man, this fight would be amazing. You'd have everyone there. If this fight gets announced for UFC Spain, bro, I'm there. I'm in the nosebleeds, guys. I'm going to be the cheapest spot in the house. I'm going to be sitting right there. This would be amazing. Like, this fight gives me goosebumps. Fellas, is it gay to get goosebumps from 2 other men? Let me know. But yeah, make this fight for December. These guys would be ready for each other at that point. There's going to be no issues with Ramadan. No going to be issues with any, like, contender fights. Make this fight. Please make it in Spain so I can watch it. They know why. Please. I beg of you. What do you guys think of UFC Spain? Is it a banger? Would you guys bring an event to Spain? Do you guys think it can sell? What would you do with the prelim prospects that I was talking about? And yeah, what fights would you put on this card? Do you think the UFC is actually going to come to Spain this year? And will they go to any other countries like Japan? Oh, Japan video incoming. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to lotion myself up real quick.